Right, the Congo is about to Boogaloo. I realise that they've been kind of having a soft Boogaloo for like the last 50 years or something like that, but basically it's now coming to a head and it's properly kicking off. Right, one of my writers is obsessed with African geopolitics, as you've probably understood from like some of the African dictator videos and stuff like that we've been doing. Like he is obsessed with all of it, so he is watching all of this like very, very closely and keeping me updated. Basically, there was a bunch of Romanian mercenaries as well who just got like captured and everything. So basically, yeah, things are hitting the fan in the Congo. South Africa and Rwanda go head to head over DR Congo war. South Africa and Rwanda's already fraught diplomatic relations have worsened after President Cyril Ramaphosa accused the Rwanda-backed M23 rebel group of killing South African peacekeepers in Eastern Democratic Republic of the Congo. It's not a democracy. At all, as the rebels gained the upper hand in the battlefield by capturing most of Goma, the biggest city in the east, South Africa fired a diplomatic salvo, warning that further attacks on its troops would be considered a declaration of war. So basically, it's now spilling over where more countries are going to get involved in the war, and the Congo is going to become a massive battleground. Right, you know, like the Umbongo song. Way down deep in the middle of the jungle, a hippo took an apricot, an apple, and a mango. He put them all together and he did a little tango. Remember Bongo? That thing that you drank when you were like 5? Well, it's like that, except replace all of the fruit with PMCs. There's a certain person I know who's having a field day. He's sitting there like, nice. Like, he's making bank, son. I'm saying too much. Anyway, as the rebel, I've just read that. Rwanda's President Paul Kagame hit back, accusing South Africa of being part of a belligerent force involved in offensive combat operations to help the Congolese government fight against its own people. A total of 13 South African soldiers have been killed in the fighting since last week, as the rebels made a lightning advance towards Goma, a major trading hub on the border with Rwanda. Last year, another 7 South Africans were killed in eastern DR Congo, making it one of the country's deadliest combat-related tragedies in recent time. They've basically been having like not a cold war, more like a lukewarm war, where basically there's whole parts of the Congo that you just can't go into and you can't go near because this rebel group controls this bit and that rebel group controls that bit and everything. And even though there's like a drawn border around the Congo, it's completely fractured up between all of these warlords. But the government kind of like controls all the main roads and controls all the cities. However, that is starting to change. Basically, it's not a cold war; it's a lukewarm war now. Well, it's starting to, and it's very quickly approaching a hot war. South Africa and Rwanda have long had a difficult relationship. In 2014, South Africa expelled 3 Rwandan diplomats after an attack on the home of an exiled Rwandan dissident in Johannesburg. Kagame's government responded by expelling 6 South African envoys. Tensions seemingly eased after Ramaphosa's visit to Rwanda last year for commemorations to mark the 30th anniversary of the genocide in which about 800,000 people were killed. That's the Rwandan genocide, where basically the French colonials came in and did things like measured people's noses and the colour of their skin and basically created a mini master race. And they created a master race and a sub race. And the Tutsis, I believe, were the master race, you know, in the French colonials' eyes. And then there was the Hutus. I might have that back to front, but basically the Hutus and the Tutsis just started massacring each other. No, was it the Tutsis that get massacred? Or the Hutus? I can't remember. I'll need to brush up on it. I wish my guy was here. He knows, by the way, everything about African geopolitics and shit like that. Like, whole guys in suits in a great big fancy parliament building talking about literal witchcraft and all that stuff. He's obsessed. He's obsessed with all that stuff. Africa's not a real place. But they have flared up again. Following the death of the South Africans who were deployed to eastern DR Congo in December 2023 as part of a regional peacekeeping force sent by the South African Development Community. South African soldiers make up the bulk of the force, known by the acronym SAMI-DRC, that had the mission of repelling armed groups such as the M23 and bringing peace to the mineral-rich region following decades of unrest. The latest diplomatic fallout started with a post shared on Ramaphosa's X page. In it, the president confirmed he had spoken to Kagame about the escalating conflict and that both leaders had agreed on the urgent need for a ceasefire and the resumption of peace talks by all parties to the conflict. Ramaphosa also insisted in a later statement that the presence of South African troops in DR Congo was not a declaration of war against any country or state, an apparent reference to Rwanda. South Africa's Defence Minister Angie Motshekga, I think, however, had a slightly different take, telling reporters there's been no hostilities between us, it's just that when they were firing above our heads, the president did warn them that if you're going to fire, we're going to take that as a declaration of war. But Ramaphosa went further on X, saying the peacekeepers, I love how world leaders are just arguing about extreme geopolitics stuff on X, just on Twitter, saying the peacekeepers were killed in attacks by the M23, and he pointedly added Rwanda Defence Force militia. This angered Kagame, who said statements made by South African officials, including Ramaphosa, contained lies and distortion. The Rwanda Defence Force is an army, not a militia, Kagame replied on X. President Ramaphosa has never given a warning of any kind unless it was delivered in his local language, which I do not understand. He did ask for support to ensure the South African force has adequate electricity, food and water, which we shall help communicate. President Ramaphosa confirmed to me that M23 did not kill the soldiers from South Africa, the Congolese army. FARDC did, Kagame said. He added that the regional peacekeepers, who included troops from Tanzania and Malawi, were a belligerent force working alongside genocidal armed groups that targeted Rwanda and had no place in this situation. Kagame closed his lengthy statement by saying South Africa was in no position to take on the role of a peacemaker or mediator, and if the country wanted a confrontation, Rwanda would deal with the matter in that context any day. Basically, fuck around and find out, brother. Man, like, that's what's happening. So basically, we are probably going to have, like, a semi-proxy war in the Congo. Now, the Congo's been shit for ages, right? There's whole sections of the Congo that you just can't go into because it was basically like Syria, where, yeah, all the cities and everything were controlled by the government, but there was huge swathes of the place where you couldn't go into it. You couldn't go into it at all because it was controlled by XYZ group and this militia and that terrorist group and blah, blah, blah. So the Congo has been an absolute fucking mess for a very, very long time. I believe it's been classified as still being in a state of civil war for decades. For decades now, but the civil war has like lulls and ups and downs and everything, and it did have a down for a wee while there, but now it's had a big fucking up. A really big up, to the point where now other rival nations are probably going to use the Congo to attack each other. You know, kind of like Ukraine, Vietnam, North Korea, loads of places where big governments try and use them as their battleground because I don't want to mess up my own garden, right? You know, it's like when you make sure you have a party at a friend's house, so it's them that has to deal with the cleanup afterwards and not you. So yeah, basically, things are going to get very, very interesting. I will text my friend to see if I can get any more information about what's going on. And I'll report back with what I'm allowed to tell you.